Here today with Coach Galen Zimmerman of Dripping Springs. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Now, over the weekend, your skill guys were out at a 7-on-7 state qualifying tournament, and well, they qualified for Texas 7-on-7 state later in June. Only the second time Dripping Springs has ever qualified for state. First time since uh, wrote it down somewhere, 2005. Tell us a little bit about the experience this weekend and what your position group's looking
Sure. Yeah. Our weekend, I mean, we were in a pool with Round Rock, Lake Travis, and Rouse. So all three of those, I think quality programs, quality teams. So we knew we're going to have to play well. And fortunately for us, right out of the gate, we were throwing and catching. 7-on-7 it's designed for the offense. It really is. It's a possession game. But it's something where you've got to maximize opportunities, especially now that they've shortened the games, which I am, in favor of. I like the new format that we've got the last couple of years. It just seems like the game goes quicker. We were just getting too long, I think, with some of them before. But you've got to really maximize those drops. Can be amplified, because there's going to be some times that the ball sails or the defense makes a good play. So you've got to maximize catching the football, and it puts a premium on that. And so right out of the gate, we really played well. Played even, there with Lake Travis, which was good to see. But going to be a district opponent next year. And then, Rouse, who's been throwing and catching the ball really well the last several years. So for us to come out of that pool was good to see. We've got a quarterback, obviously, that, is a Division I talent. But then, it was good to see a couple of our guys, our receivers that I think are pretty good, kind of step up. And I think that was good to see. Kind of made some people notice a couple of those guys. And then, going to the qualifying game with Hutto, which is another, really good program. They've been at a high level the last several years, and, really talented to go in there and really start fast. And, there's some things that happened in that game, some adversity, and our kids really were able to keep their composure and their focus, which, so you come out of there, it's good to qualify, but you come out of there seeing a few things, about how our kids handle, some of those things, the resiliency that they show, and then really, just the throwing and catching, the technique part of it. Sometimes 7-on-7, you got no rush, so it's a little bit different. But watching how we catch the ball in traffic and really focus on those things, that was good to see.
Now, 7-on-7, especially on defense, is all about foot speed coverage. You can't be physical. You can't initiate contact, all that. But you've had a chance to see your kids some here in the spring and other sports, and as the year wound down, you've made the playoff 6 years in a row, but now you're going to be in a tough 6A district. So what do you think you look like for the fall overall?
From a defensive standpoint, or just overall, both sides of the ball?
Both sides of the ball.
Okay. Yeah, we're taking a step up in classification, which is, in our area, a really big deal. You're stepping up to a couple programs in our district that have been, one's a 3-time state champion, 3 in a row. One's a, perennial in the finals and several state championships themselves. Both were in the semifinals. I mean, you're stepping into that district. And then on top of that, there's several other of those guys that are in that district that, have performed extremely well. Bowie's one of them, has made a deep run. And then, you've got some quality opponents with like Anderson and Johnson that are making the step up with us. And so it's going to be tough. But I do like, watching our kids in the spring. I do like how we're being physical. I do like, the makeup of the team. We've got to stay healthy. We don't necessarily have the depth that some of those programs that have been competing in 6A have. And so we need a little bit of some luck, I think, to stay healthy. And then we also, we've got to make sure that we are get better at our technique part of it. And like you said, so the defense, you play a lot of man, probably a little bit more than the season. I think you've got to keep the quarterbacks guessing. High school quarterbacks, are too smart anymore. If they know where you're going to be, they can make those throws. So you've got to kind of disguise some things. And so that's why I like, defensively 7-on-7. Yeah, you're not going to jam. You're not going to be physical, but they've got to learn how to play the void and take away the positive and break on the negative and, try to disguise some things, play routes, play with your feet, a lot more than you would with your hands in the fall. But we've made some really good plays the other day. You hold a couple teams to 2 scores or less in 7-on-7, that's a good day, which we were able to, every game but one. So I think, having seen that and getting it's more opportunity for our kids to, kind of work on our secondary and our, their back pedal and their break and coming out and seeing a route, breaking on the ball. And then offensively, kind of the same deal as we're going to have to stay healthy. We've got a good group coming back. Excuse me. But, we got to maximize possessions. I think, going into the 6A district, we're going into, when the opportunity's there, you're going to have to make the catch. You're going to have to make the tough one in traffic, and then you add the run game on top of that. So I think for us, it's just, our margin of error is probably a little bit less than, some of those guys have been playing up there. But I think we've got a good crew that, that they're able to play at that high level.
All right. Now, one of the things I'm trying to do in these interviews is kind of illustrate the way coaches move around and wind up where they wind up. So if you don't mind, take us through your coaching history.
Okay. So I've been at Dripping Springs now 8.5 years. Before that, I was at Frisco Liberty for 8 years. The first 8 years it was open. When we opened it, I was the OC there with Joe McBride, and then the last 5 years at Liberty as the head coach. Before that, for 7 years, I was at Hebron High School. We opened up Hebron High School as well with Coach Brazel, who just retired. He's the only head coach they've ever had. And I was there for 7 years as a receiver coach. And then before that, I was at Louisville High School when Coach Gage, Ronnie Gage, was the head coach there back in the late 90s. And Coach Brazel was the defensive coordinator. That's kind of how I got to Hebron. And then the first year of coaching, I was at a place called Noblesville, which is just outside of Indianapolis, with a gentleman named Kevin Wright. So it's been kind of I've been blessed to be really good places with really good people. When I look back, I feel very blessed where I was and who I was able to learn from.
Now, you've mentioned some of the names that mentored you as you came along. If you can, talk a little bit about that role of the head coach or the coordinator as mentor, coaching the coaches that work with him to prepare them for whatever's going to be next for them.
Right. Well, so I think that's the biggest part. Where I'm at right now in my career, a little bit of what I get to do is football. And a lot of what I do is trying to manage the program, coach coaches. We've got an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator that do a phenomenal job. They run both of those parts. My job, as I see it, is try to mentor those guys. I do get to coach a little bit of football, mainly the special teams. But it's trying to manage that and mentor those guys. I've got 3 guys on staff right now I think would be a phenomenal head coach. In fact, one of them, our associate head coach, before he came here, was a head coach at Irving High for 3 years and does a phenomenal job. So we're blessed that way. And again, I'm smart enough to know that I've been really good places with, Coach McBride, Coach Brazel, and Coach Gage. And what I try to do is emulate, what those guys did, in my own style. I think all 3 of them philosophically were real close, but they did things a little bit different. And so I think you put your style on it, but the things that have worked, the people that have been successful that I've been around, I mean, if you're smart, you're trying to emulate them and trying to, input the same process, and then I guess coach and make the coaches under me understand why that's important. Hopefully someday when they're in charge and they can put their own spin on things. But hopefully they're learning, how to do things, and sometimes how not to do things. There's some things that, some people wouldn't do the same way. So I really think that's as big a part of my job in coaching football as anything is coaching coaches.
All right. Well, one more question before I let you go, Coach, if you can. Tell us one thing about yourself that most people don't know.
There's not really anything too interesting. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, so I'm the first oldest boy not to be a farmer in like 5 generations. And I chose football coaching. There's some days I wish I was just back riding the tractor. There are a few days.
All right. Well, thanks for your time today, Coach, and best of luck in the upcoming season.
Thank you, Tony. I really appreciate it.